You can't. Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Cooper. I'm co-directing Feast for the Soul. And this is a compassionate community conversation that we've been running throughout the Feast for the Soul with inspired people who are actually stepping up in their community to gather people together to support and help people thrive and grow. And today we have two wonderful ladies who are in my local community in Nottingham in England. I'd love to introduce them, Claire Clements and Jackie Wilson. Hi, and we'll have an opportunity to chat in just a moment. The conversation, oh, and of course there's the doggy. Sorry, I can't remember.
Right at that moment.
Wanting to be included, of course. Nurturing, this talk is called Nurturing the Child and the Ecosystem Around Them. I met Jackie and Claire I met Jackie a long time ago. And then I have no idea, about 2015 or even before. And then Claire met Jackie at the mass meditation event in Nottingham in 2017. And then their beautiful relationship grew. And they co-created from their own individual work, which would be good if you shared this, Positively Empowered Kids. So I would like, Jackie, would you speak first, Jackie? Would you just say, well, I've said who you are, but say who you are and what your passion is and what you're doing for Positively Empowered Kids, but also your own work as well. And then we'll move on to Claire. And thank you, ladies, for being here. It really is such a joy.
Yeah, I feel very honoured to be asked, actually. So thank you very, very much. So I'm Jackie Wilson, as Sue said, co-founder of Positively Empowered Kids. My journey started probably when I was about 35, because I've been on a journey from the age of 10 of having to deal with a lot of challenges in terms of trauma from grief when I was 10. And that kind of led me down a kind of mental ill health route. And I started to deal with that around about the age of 35. That's when it kind of all kind of blew up. And coming through it, what I recognized and realized is I didn't have the tools to navigate life, to deal with the challenges I was facing. There's nobody around me either knew what to do. So it's become a real passion of mine to be able to kind of gift that back to the next generation so that we can find a way together. And I don't see this as just something for me to kind of give back to the children. And it's like Tom said a moment ago, the children are our real teachers and we need to listen to them. So I've done a lot of that over the years of really deeply listening to children so that I can learn from it and use it as a guide in my work of how to do the next thing that I'm doing, we're doing. So I started Empower Education, oh goodness me, many years ago, with the emphasis of running programs to empower kids, whether I was working one-to-one with them or in groups, in schools particularly, to kind of really empower them to then pass that on. So all the work that I do is about sharing on something to a friend, a parent, a teacher, even somebody in their community. It's that train to share thing that I'm really passionate about, because you can make a bigger difference. So Empower Education is my coaching side. I do a lot of coaching with young people, and that just filters into all of my work. I'm a mindfulness teacher. I taught children's yoga for 20 years, from the age of 2 upwards. So that was a real learning curve and wonderful work. Done a bit with counselling, but I stepped away from that because coaching and empowerment is really where I sit well. And I also have another business called the Emotions Toolkit, which is about helping children to discover their own toolkit of techniques that work, that are going to help them to navigate their emotions, their mindset, so that they can flourish and thrive. That's really what I'm about.
Thank you. And I know you do all that and you do it so beautifully. And the other thing is about championing children as well, isn't it? But I think we'll get onto that in a minute. Thanks, Jackie. So Claire, would you hop in now and share a little bit about you and your work and your passion?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Sue said, we kind of all came together at this big moment, really, which for me was a big sort of transition in my life. I just discovered spirituality. I kind of was in a real place of finding myself, like Jackie. I'd gone through many mental health issues, particularly as a teenager. And actually, it was interesting because it was related back to when I was a lot younger, events that had happened then. And so seemingly I had a good upbringing and, had all the things that I would ever need. So I wasn't, in one of those categories of a deprived child. But equally, I hit the teenage years and had a few different things happen to me. And I just didn't know where to turn or what to do. And so I got to the stage where I did try to end my life. Using my diabetes. Luckily, at the time, I didn't know enough about my diabetes to do it correctly, luckily for everybody. But, that kind of really has driven my work and why I do what I do. I didn't want another child to kind of feel that they didn't know what information they could access or who to turn to. And becoming a parent as well was, a massive influence in that. So my background has always actually been in the corporate world, so not directly working with children, but actually seeing it from the parental side of things, seeing the stresses that they're under in the workplace, that pressure to strive for that work-life balance, and obviously the impact that then has in the home. I was fortunate enough to work in a pastoral role at an independent boarding school in the UK, which gave me access to a lot of other information. And sort of off the back of that, I guess over the years, I've always been a listener. I've always been someone that people open up to, but always been able to keep things lighthearted at the same time. So that kind of merge of skill set, I guess, led me to creating my own business called Positive Pants. So it's all about put on your positive pants. It started as a physical product with affirmations on underwear to help children get through the day. And it evolved into my own book called Put on Your Positive Pants. And it was always more than just a product. It was always about the ethos, that kind of that metaphor for a way of life, for positive mindset. And that is kind of how Jackie and I came together. So I do one-to-one mentoring work with children, but like Jackie, so she's sort of very much, the train to share model. The lovely thing is we complement each other beautifully. If my work, although it's with children, it's usually in the family home, and it's translating those methods and those techniques and tools that children learn to the parents, so that it's actually carried out in the family home and beyond, so that it doesn't just stay with the child. It's that bigger ripple effect, which I think is why we've all synchronicity, I can't even say the word that I was going to say then, been brought together at the right time, a great synergy between us all.
Thank you. Yes. So you've each had your own, or have your own businesses, but today this is about this real sense of community that has taken place, Youth Voice in Action, the Children's Festival. Would you share whatever is coming through for you, but this child-initiated learning, this child-initiated as the core seed that you revolve around? Would you share a little bit about that? Whoever wants to speak first, and then the other one chip in.
I think for me, it's like I said, it's about the list, like Claire's talking about listening to the children that we're working with, because we can go in, we've got great ideas of what we're going to do with the kids. And when you get there, you've got to tune into the energy. You've got to tune into those kids, what they're presenting, how they are at that moment, to get the best out of them. And some of them, their behavior might not be brilliant, so there's something more going on for them. They need supporting and nurturing to be able to come in and be part of that session. So the more listening and tuning in you can do, then you can ask the right questions and really get feedback to what they actually need, is what I would say. It guides us as we go.
Yeah. And I think what I would add to that is, for us, we know that, as we do run our own separate businesses as well, we know that for every child, Not everyone or every modality that's out there is right for that child. And so, it can't come from a place of ego. It has to come from a heart space of knowing that we want to help these children. And I might not be the right person to do that. Jackie might not be the right person, but there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people out there doing amazing light work and, looking after the well-being of children in so many different ways. And so I guess for us, it's about bringing that community together to find the right people to be able to support that child. And we've kind of done that through a number of different ways. And if you do that, then we've got more chance of actually empowering a child to make their own decisions, to take responsibility for their own well-being, their spirituality, their mental health, whatever element you want to frame it as. But that's a really important factor.
Yes, I mean, the children know, again, Tom said this earlier, the children know, listening to the children and being able to take action and support that child taking their own action was something, this project that we put together in Nottingham called Youth Voice in Action. And I think it would be really useful, because this has really expanded, hasn't it? Would you be able to explain what that is and what that looks like? Yeah. Whoever.
You go first, Claire.
Okay.
I don't mind.
No. So yeah, we were brought together with Youth Voice in Action project because we were looking at Nottingham as a city, all the different amazing things it's got to offer culturally, just such a vibrant city. And actually it is the heart of England, which is very poignant for all of us in particular. And when they were looking at what we needed to do in Nottingham or where to start, the young people was the thing that came up. Let's start with the young people, let's influence, let's help, let's empower them. And so Jackie and I were brought on board to kind of lead on that, really, to lead the action. So we had a Youth Voice in Action project, which is using a digital democracy platform for community organising. So it was a platform that already existed called Vocalise, and it was about bringing communities together so that they could have more of an impact. So what we've done is we've kind of changed the model, put our own spin on it, our own way of engaging with the children. And recognise that it's the children's voices that need to be heard. They are the future generations. They are, more advanced with us. We're the sort of way showers. We're here to just sort of lead them in the right direction so that they can make the changes. So we've gone into a number of schools now, running this programme. And what happens is the children look at what's going on in their own school in the first place. What changes would they like to make? What would make, their environment a better learning place for them? And they put their ideas on this fantastic platform, and all of their peers vote on the ideas, they rate them, they get engaged with working groups. And it's a train to share model. So those young people then train their classmates so that you really get the children's voice. And then they take action to make those ideas happen. So if there's a priority comes up, those children that have opted in to be part of that process, they then take the action. They write to their local councillors. They write, speak to local businesses about how they could get some money to make it happen. And actually, well, maybe not surprisingly for us, is that most of the things the children want are actually not requiring money, which I think is always the fear within schools. This is going to cost us something. But actually, a lot of what the children want is very simple. And in particular, the first school that we piloted this with, it was just after lockdown. I mean, we went in during lockdown at different points. And actually, really what they wanted was that quality time with their peers. They wanted an extra break time. They wanted to have a little party. They wanted to have a little, a session where they could watch a film and just bond and get that human connection back. So we've achieved some great results, and some that, they have raised funds for, like a happy tree in the local community. So what we do is we start it in the school and then we widen it out. What in the community needs to be done? Is it more litter bins, that sort of thing? And it is getting everyone involved, the ecosystem of a child. So the child, the school, parents in some cases, the local businesses, the community. You know, it all feeds into that experience and empowering that child.
I'd like to kind of also say, if we take this back to the real deep reason we're doing this, and I haven't actually said this, it's only just come up now. If you think about it, and we all will agree, I'm sure, with this, the education system needs to change. Our children are evolved. They are coming through much more evolved generation. The education system doesn't fit the majority of those children. It needs to change. The adults that are there at the moment have been in the education system for so long. They're led by government. They can't make those changes easily. So why not put this program in there to actually get the voice of children coming through and up into the school so that it can be evolved their way? Because if you can just do the little tiny things, they're going to make such a difference to those children. And it will begin, in my opinion, the ripple effect will start to happen from the bottom up. That's the only way I can see it impacting, if they actually can show those adults, those teachers, the academy trust CEOs, the government, the council, what they're capable of. Then they hopefully, with encouragement, will start to listen and start to implement those things, because we're not going to stop. You know, this needs to ripple out globally. In my mind, we need to get children's voices. More and more people are doing a lot more youth voice work, and it needs to happen because the adults predominantly don't get it of what's needed to consciously evolve ourselves. You know, all you on this call today understand it and get it. It's those teachers that just don't get it. They're not open enough to what's actually happening in this world at the moment and the evolution that we're experiencing. We've got some powerful children out there, powerful.
What I particularly love, say for the Youth Voice in Action, the project that was funded by the Community Association. So you set up outcomes to start with, didn't you? And they were measured because it was being funded. And bearing in mind, you are a charity. I don't think we've actually mentioned that. You're a community interest group. So there was a whole support network of global individuals, weren't there, that came to support this initiative. And it grew beyond anything that we could actually imagine. And I believe, this is just my take on it, because obviously I came to the school with you, was that the children it started from the head teachers' compassionate nature to bring compassion, to bring mindfulness, to bring the voice of the children forward. So even Jackie, you were involved with that, but it came from the head teacher, didn't it? A lot of it, and you very, very quickly saw behaviour changed among family members once the children were aware of what was happening, and that they were actually being empowered from your heart. It wasn't another gimmick. This was for real. So I'm just wondering regarding. So we went in that day, and there was this, they'd had an idea about a garden, hadn't they? Would you be able to just talk a little bit so that people can really experience what actually happened from an idea taking seed to something actually happening?
I'm going to let Claire speak because I'm about to cough.
Okay.
I was going to say you're probably better to speak on this one because you're a little bit more involved with it. Yes, sorry, I was literally switched off then because I was thinking Jackie was going to answer it.
Well, let Jackie take it.
Just compose herself for a second.
Is it uncoughed?
Oh, she can't unmute again.
I'll unmute you.
I was ready to talk about the festival and go into that. So,
can you unmute, Jackie? Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I'd literally muted and can't mute. Okay, so the kids came up, one of their priorities was to create a sensory area, a quiet area in their playground. That was something that they wanted to do. It became a priority and they took it forward. So some of the ideas were that they were going to bring in the local councillors, so 2 councillors, came to the school so they could tell them about their idea. One of those counsellors then gave them £500 to make this happen, which was incredible. And the children led this. It was just amazing. They then designed it. That was looked at with the school. The school talked about it with them and discussed their ideas and talked about things that might not work and how they could make it happen, things that were too expensive, that wouldn't fit the budget. So they had all those discussions. And then those children worked together with the, what's he called, the handyman, the kind of site manager, if you like, to make that happen. So now they have this area, they've got the grass area, they've got benches, they've got cupboards out there with books in, and different things that they can use in that quiet area, and they can choose to go and sit there. It's quite a nice area, actually. I know you went to see it, didn't you? So but they did it all themselves, and that was off the back of this project. And it's just amazing that they created that. The kids were, I think the lead group were 9, 10 and 11-year-olds, but the youngest that was involved in rating those ideas was seven. Yeah, so year 3, 4, 5 and 6, which is 7 to 11-year-olds.
So from this project, or before this project, there were child champions, weren't there? There were. Am I right in that there were children who took leads?
Or the whole school, they've got leadership roles. Literally, Lindsay, the head teacher, says that the children run this school. She has light monitors. She has resilience leaders. She has youth voice in action. She has eco leaders. All sorts of things, from the littlest jobs, library, so many things, behaviour buddies, all sorts. Every child has a role in that school so that they can take ownership of something.
I think, like a lot of schools that have student councils, which they did have, they actually could see the synergy of it, but actually what extra the Youth Voice in Action project offered. So they then replaced the student council with the Youth Voice in Action project, which another school have also followed suit and done. So
and bear in mind, this school is a deprived area, so it's one of the highest areas in Nottingham of deprivation. There's something like 49% of children are on free school meals, so it is a challenging area. So, you know, when Lindsay, the head teacher, arrived, there was something like 15% exclusions in that school, and within the year of her being there, it went down to 0. So she worked really, really hard to take some children feeling very unsafe in their environment, to bringing them into a very nurturing, safe space. And the word she used to me, which I'll never forget, is she said she brought love into the school, which is massive. And that makes me quite emotional that you've got a head teacher saying that. That's one of our core values. That's how we move through life, is from our hearts. And she literally made those children feel so safe with love. She'd cuddle them. She would really give them time. And it wasn't just the children, it was the staff, it was the parents, it was the whole ecosystem in that school community that she gave time and attention to, including herself. Self-care was a big thing with her. She'd look after herself as well, and it showed massively. And that's what can be achieved when people get it.
Yes, one individual can have such a big impact. Could I ask you to move on to now the Positively Empowered Kids Festival, the 2 festivals that you've run, and talk a little bit about that, because this is inspiring others. This is just an introductory conversation, really, but inspiring others that this is possible and happening, and maybe for sharing as well. So yeah, the festivals.
Yeah. So it's interesting, really, the festival journey, because it started initially as a project when Jackie and I connected, and we'd both come up with a similar idea that there were amazing people out there, like I mentioned earlier, all doing their own thing, but actually if we all came together we could have a bigger impact. So Jackie and I, we don't do things in a small way. We decided our first event would be a festival, and we weren't a you know, a social enterprise group at that time, a community interest company. It was just the two of us. We just decided to run this festival, a big race course in the centre of Nottingham. And just through word of mouth, really, and our connections that we've been building over the years, we managed to get 500 people there. So that, you know, that was massive in itself. But what was so amazing about the day is, you know, obviously the children absolutely enjoyed it. They were all introduced to different modalities of how they could help themselves, different tips and techniques from a massive range of different experts. And one thing that all the experts had said, and, you know, this was never, you know, intentional, really, it just has all evolved so beautifully, and the energy that's surrounding us and supporting us has obviously contributed to this. But it was never a competitive place to be. All of the stall holders, all of the people doing demos and workshops for the children, it wasn't about trying to compete to get that child's attention. It was who in the room is the right person for that particular child. Who are they drawn to? So that was, you know, a really, really powerful message for them to be left with. We had an open mic stage, so that was about boosting children's confidence. Anyone could just get up, tell a joke, bang some drums, whatever they wanted to do, just to kind of have that experience. And the momentum behind it was massive. So we created a network group following that so that we could bring wellbeing practitioners together. We ran that in person before lockdown hit. And we now have 650 different wellbeing connections in our Facebook group that we can draw on any time. And obviously 2020, the aim was to run another festival and see if we could kind of cascade that out, by which point we'd become a social enterprise, because we felt really passionately that we wanted these children to be able to access all of this information for free. It shouldn't be that, you know, the children or families that are privileged to have the money to buy a ticket can access this information. It needs to be available to everybody. And again, not just the children, the parents, you know, the carers that are surrounding them. So we did a lot over lockdown, loads of online stuff that you can access on our YouTube channel. But last September, we did our return, our sort of festival. And for us, it's bringing all the elements of everything that we're about together, and all the people and all the things we talk about with the ecosystem. So we ran it again at Nottingham Racecourse, and we had 1,200 people there. We managed to gift 70% of tickets to deprived families through the schools. And we're going to be back again this year on the 1st of July. And the festival is entirely free for everybody. We do not want that to be a barrier. But the experience they had, the energy, the vibe. We had a superhero cape walk, had everyone putting on their capes, making their own capes with like empowering words on them. And they walked around half of Nottingham Racecourse with Jackie and I at the front, jumping around with our capes on. And that was all about that self-belief and self-confidence and self-esteem for a child, you know, knowing that they are the superhero, and that's what, you know, that they can achieve absolutely anything, be that running a stall, being on the stage performing, you know, just taking part. It was, you know, every single element of the festival was important as another area.
And I think it's thanks, Claire, and it's grown exponentially, hasn't it, in just the few short months since September, of those organisations that work in community who were there and witnessed this whole energy field that are now coming to you rather than you going to them, aren't they? We've seen what you've done, we've understood what you're doing. What can we do to help support you? It's marvellous. Jackie, do you want to add anything?
I would just say, if anybody wants to kind of see what we did at the festival, I think Erica's just put it in chat. If you go onto our YouTube channel, you'll see a video, 2 videos from this year's festival, from the 2019 festival, and all our past events, all the experts, workshops are all on there. So you can go and have a look at those. But yeah, just echo everything Claire said. It just blew us away in 2019, and then it did it again in 2022. Just to know that we are making a difference. You know, we had, for those that don't know, we've got an organisation, or a government organisation called CAMS, the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service in the UK. And they came, we've managed to connect with them, which is brilliant. It was kind of our real dream to get connected with them. They're very difficult to kind of find a way in the door, but we did, and they were there, and they were just so blown away because their parents coming up to them, emotionally talking about their challenges. Other members of our providers were doing the same thing. They had some really deep conversations. It wasn't just a fun day out. There was much more meaning behind it, and it just had such a huge impact. So we know we're on the right track. Like Sue said, we've had a lot of organisations coming to us, including the local council, that have now contracted us to do a lot more work. So we're going in the right direction. And for us, it's completely early intervention. It's preventing children from reaching that point of no return, of getting to a really bad crisis state. We want to get them early, empower them. And a lot of people think that, no, we're okay, but no, just make sure you've got your toolkit, you've got your ways, your knowledge of what to do if anything happens, whether it's to you or somebody else, so that you can then share that on. But yeah, we created a very safe space that children felt great, and they felt they could feel. Yeah.
In conclusion, what are the core values of positively empowered kids? What is it that you work through and towards daily?
I think obviously we've mentioned love being a massive one. Everything has to come from the heart, absolutely. Empower is one of our others. Integrity, play. Everything we do is playful. You know, we have to enjoy what we're doing, and we do. We giggle. We're crazy schoolgirls every day. And then the last one is collaboration. So hopefully we demonstrate those through everything we do. And if there's anything that we're approached to do, or that doesn't align with those things, then and again we're very much trust our intuition, that the people that we work with have the right heart. It's not ego driven, it's all done in the correct way for us, and I think that's why it's had so much power and momentum.
And Jackie, could I just ask you both one question? What is it that you need now? What is it that would make your heart sing even more? The work that you're doing, keeping level and keeping balanced. And is there anything that's sort of coming through for you as individuals that is really helping you, or what you need more of?
There's lots of things we need.
I think for me, the thing that's straight away coming through is that the power of the momentum has been through that word of mouth. Having platforms like this to be able to speak on, is going to directly, raise our profile, show people what we're doing, and have that ripple effect. Because unless people know about us and what resources we have on our website or on our YouTube, it can't be passed on to other children. And I think, we would love to see this sort of model being replicated or being kind of cascaded out, as Jackie's. I mean, we've not even touched on it, but we have got massive vision for the future. We've got a legacy that we want to leave behind, and that isn't just us doing it. That is bringing together all these like-minded people that understand what we're coming from, and the importance of what it is that we're trying to achieve. So if we could get that kind of going on a much bigger scale, then that would be amazing.
I think it's also connecting with people that are like-minded with this vision. That's the people we really want to connect in with. I know Tom mentioned it just before we came on, about having some kind of network of people who are really on this path, because we really do need to come together globally to kind of learn from each other, to share, to take into our own communities what people are doing. You know, there's so much we can share, and there's so much we can learn as well. So that for me is something we really need and want to do.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing with us here on Feast for the Soul. As you say, it's the gradualness. This is the very essence of Feast, is the gradualness. It's turning up every day, showing up every day, working together. You know, this is a huge thing, isn't it? Sharing ideas and then going out into the world and sharing what you do so beautifully and inspiring others to come along as well. Would you say out loud what the name of your website is, if anybody's just listening rather than looking?
Yeah, it's www.positivelyempoweredkids.co.uk. And our new tagline is co-creating conscious, compassionate change makers.
That's lovely.
That really resonates.
Co-creating compassionate,
conscious, compassionate change makers.
Oh my gosh, that links with everything that we're doing in the feast and what we're doing in community, and yeah, bringing compassion from our hearts into the community, and for all those organizations, the businesses, the people who are actually in power, who hold the money at the moment, the councillors, as we call them. In America they call them the mayors, don't they, and in Canada, and the faith communities, all people from all walks of life being involved, because they've all been children, and many of them are actually working directly with children, and it's bringing that integrity in the play that you talk about, plus all your other values. So ladies, we will now stop the recording,